Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching my show, William Wallace for America. And thank you for joining me on my Louisiana Election Forum, where I go around the state, either virtually or physically, and meet with candidates to be able to get a chance to ask them some key questions so you get to know them if they're in your area, whether you're going to vote for them or not, or whether they're not in your area, on what you might expect from your elected officials or for other elected officials to be able to have information to know more about. Be more informed. With me in this first interview today is Chance Henry, running for state representative, right, Chance?
That's right. House District 42, William.
Whose seat is that currently, or was it?
Uh, Currently is held by John Stefanski. He's actually a
Right.
candidate for Attorney General.
Right.
So,
So
um,
are you a Crowley guy too?
yeah, Crowley's kind of adopted me over the last 3 to 4 years. I'm actually a country boy, born and raised. We still live out in the country, but I moved my office here on Main Street, Crowley. I was parish president for four. I'm going on 4 years now. So and being in the courthouse, multiple times a week. Crowley's kind of adopted me as one of theirs, and so we've been thankful for that. Kids go to school here in Crowley, so you could say I'm from Crowley now at this point. Yes.
So you've been parish president of what parish?
Acadia Parish.
Acadia Parish. All right. Because even though some of us Southern Louisianians know where that is, some of us don't know. It's all down south of I-10 is all kind of the same thing to some people.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no, we're right north of Vermilion Parish, and south of St. Landry. We're on the border of Lafayette Parish here. It's a big economic driver for us.
So without answering the question, without having to ask the question, you kind of answered it. I usually one of the things the first thing I ask is, your background, what you've been doing, and you've talked about your insurance office, but you've been parish president also of
Yeah, so I kind of tell everybody try to keep it short, the story. So I'm a country boy, born and raised, graduated high school, thought I was going to be a farmer, first generation farmer. That rarely works out, and so I wasn't one of those special cases where it does. And so we were able to get out of our situation there. I had a catering business. I bought crawfish all over the Gulf South. From the East Coast all the way into Texas, and so I did that for a number of years, and then I ended up getting my insurance license. Started a small insurance agency. I started a scratch book in late 2015, and then in 2019, while I was operating the insurance agency, me and my wife decided we're going to run for public office. That was a police juror seat, and we ran a successful campaign. We won, and I tell everybody we messed up and won, and then I got on the police jury, and then my peers elected me to president, and I've served that for 4 years now. And so I was obviously the youngest one on the jury, and so they picked me to be president, and so that was I've gained the most education I could ever got. More than college or anything could have gave me between my business experience and those 4 years on the police jury through 2 hurricanes, COVID, all those things. So it's
let's
been a
let's
fun ride.
let's have something for a second too, and not to interrupt you, but police. Not a lot of people understand the police jury system here in Louisiana, and it's interesting when I talk to do interviews around the country. I've actually had some sheriffs go, "Y'all got that police jury thing down there."
Yeah.
Can you explain the police jury system for us for a second?
It's a bunch of it's a kind of like a county commissioner of any other county, but it's more like a fiefdom to best describe it, because the jurors have a little bit more authority. It's an antiquated system in my mind, for the most part, because it was mainly when communication was a lot less, and centralized power. Those jurors had a lot more power in their districts. A lot more say so in what goes on in the overall day-to-day operations of the jury, because back then they had to, because it was very rural. Their born was out in their area. They kind of controlled the employees for that area, versus nowadays it doesn't need to be like that anymore. Ours functions a lot more like a parish president system, a true a home rule charter system, as in the executive kind of runs the administration, and then the rest of the jury legislates. They've done that over time, but we still haven't had a change in home rule charter. But anyway, no, it is basically a county commissioner for all intents and purposes.
So at what point does the parish president, because you elected the parish president, at what point is that above the police jury system? Is that equal to, or does the police jury system have more control over a parish president?
You start saying versus like a parish like Lafayette Parish?
Yeah, yes. Well, you're a parish president of Acadiana Parish.
Yeah.
So, and then you're a police juror. So,
Yeah.
is the police juror was the police juror more powerful than the parish president, or
No,
where does that come into play?
I don't know. That's a hard one. They're equal of power, but the police juror themselves is more of a legislative branch, whereas the president is more of the executive branch dealing with day-to-day matters of the parish.
The
Still,
police juror kind of takes the place of the council, I guess.
correct, the council. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
And
Okay.
they do have a little bit more say so than a council does.
Mhm.
But needless to say, they are the council. The president is the executive branch and deals with that. Now, the president in Acadia is still a part-time job. It's not. I say a part-time job. It's not even considered a job. I mean, it's part of your elected
It's
duties.
duty, if you will.
Representative. Yeah.
So it sounds the police jury kind of sounds like it has a little bit more control, being having the word police in front of it. Your parish president now, you're the current parish president running for state rep. What compelled you to run for state rep and not remain as a parish president?
One, due to that big jump for me was first election at 25 years old. We go in, we win, and then we go straight to the president's position. There really wasn't any more growth there. I mean, I could have stayed another 4 years, but we did 2 hurricanes all through COVID. In that process, we were able to expand our fund balance, which is your savings. We came in with I think when I started, it was a $26 million budget, operating budget. We're now at a $31 million operating budget with a $32 or $33 million surplus. And so I was just able to accomplish a lot of things. We were able to cut a lot of red tape, kind of bring the government back to the people as it should be, right? And so after doing all of that, it was just kind of like we kind of hit the peak. And so it was either ride it for another 4 and still do public service and enjoy it. But this opportunity came around. John announced that he was running for attorney general. It was a natural progression. The hardest vote I had to earn was my wife's. Got her support, and then we're off to the races.
So do you think you're going to be able to do better, more for your community as a state rep than you would be as a parish president?
I still, because coming from local government, I think local is the closest to the heart of the people and the closest to making a truly impactful change on the people. That was my biggest hurdle to cross, was to decide to run, because if someone calls me now in my current position, I know that I can help them, right? I can pick up the phone and get the road manager or something. We can make something happen, right? When you're in the legislature, you're just one step away from that. And so that was a hard concept for me to grasp. But at the end of the day, we want good conservative legislators for our state. And we didn't really have anyone in the parish or in the District 42 that I thought could step up to the plate. And so that was where, push came to shove, and we decided to move forward.
We got about 2 or 3 minutes before I bring my next guest on here. So I give everybody that 15 minutes. I know we got a little late start, but we're about 2 or 3 minutes away from the next guest. But what do you see as the major problems facing Louisiana that you can do something about, and then connect that to how you're still going to be able to help your community like you were doing as parish president? Make that connection for me, if you will, what the biggest problems facing Louisiana are that you're going to help with.
I think that answer is not always clean and simple, but right now we're facing a huge problem, not just because I work in the insurance industry, but I mean, everyone can tell you, especially south of I-10, we have a huge problem with insurance rates as far as homeowners insurance, but also
business, right?
Yeah, but also auto insurance is outrageous as well. And so we have to fix that problem. We probably need to go after this jackpot justice system and kind of clean that up a lot. And then obviously there's crime. The legislature is not a crime enforcement agency, but there are some things that we can do to help to move that crime down, which in turn hopefully has more people looking at our state. I think it's economics at the heart of it. The more jobs we create in the state of Louisiana, the more people we bring in. That helps taxes. That helps the overall economy. So I mean, I think those are 2 good action plans for the state of Louisiana.
I love it. How and you think you'd be able to work well with a predominantly Republican legislature? Easy to say
Absolutely.
you're Republican, but I mean, we've seen in Louisiana right now. We have a predominantly Republican legislature now, and we still didn't get through agendas. Everybody says it points to the governor, but we still have an override. We still have the ability to override a lot of those vetoes, but they still didn't do it. So, one person can make the difference in a legislative session. We've seen that happen in past sessions. You being a Republican, how are you going to be able to work with maybe some people, other Republicans that might differ, or even some Democrats that might differ, and be able to bring them together to get good legislation through?
In my short but recent government history, we've been able to work with everybody on either side of the aisle. I think that, a lot of times everyone has a common goal in mind. If you take out the party lines, the majority of the decisions are good for the state of Louisiana, right? There are a couple of party line issues, but I think we just have to work with everybody. I do think the Republicans can pull it off this time. We have a super majority in both houses and a lot of good conservative guys with a conservative governor. I think we can really make a change for the right in Louisiana this go round. So we'll see what happens over the next 4 years. Bill.
All right, one last question before I bring on Roger Wilder. What is the first piece of legislation you want to work on when you get in office?
I think we need to tackle the insurance issue. I really do. I think, and which with the new insurance commissioner, it sounds like we're going to go straight into a special session right when we start. So we'll start a special session on insurance, and then we'll have a regular session after that. So,
Chance, I'm gonna get you back on before the election. All right,
that'll work.
When I'm out there in your area, your neck of the woods, we'll do an in-person interview.
Give me a call, come stop by, or I'll come over to you. So,
all right, Chance, thank you so much for being on there. I really appreciate it. We're gonna have Roger Wilder. I don't know if you had a chance to meet Roger Wilder yet, Chance. He's running for state rep out in I'll tell you the area here in Gonzales, Baton Rouge area.
Awesome.
So you might be working with him at the next session.
Nice to see you, Roger.
Likewise.
Good luck. Hey, look, he's a hard interviewer. He's going to grill you, so be careful.
Come on, bring it.
I'm picking.
All right, Chance, thanks for being on there. We'll see you soon. All right.
All righty. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Roger, how's it going, man? How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Doing absolutely fantastic. Let me see if I can move. I got let me adjust the screen a little bit. There we are. So that way the brand's not on top of your head. My William Wallace for America brand was right on your forehead. Yeah, not anymore. Roger, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Well, what district are you running in? Where are you running for office?
So it's District 71. It's Denham Springs, Louisiana. Big chunk. Well, it's Denham Springs is incorporated and whatnot. So it's Denham Springs in the city of Walker.
Okay.
It's both cities and a lot of the rural area as well.
I said Baton Rouge, Gonzales, and you're probably north. I guess you're northwest of Baton Rouge, more or Gonzales, and I said Baton Rouge area, but to us New Orleanian, Jefferson Parisonians, everything's Baton Rouge. Yeah, it's Baton Rouge. If you're Gonzales, Denham, and Walker, you're Baton Rouge. It's just how we look at it.
Works.
So you're in that area. Roger, what was your background before you ran for office?
So I don't really have a political background. I have some property owner associations. So I've sat on some boards. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a Smoothie King franchisee. So I have 19 Smoothie King locations. Opened up my first location in Denham Springs here in the district in 2001 with my wife. Grown the company to 19 locations across 2 states, and we employ over 350 people. So the closest thing to the state rep position would be I served on Smoothie King's National Franchise Advisory Council, representing 3 states since 2001. I think I've served a total of 7 or 8 terms. It's been a bunch of them, but it's the closest thing. We were just an advisory council. We did have to get elected, but we weren't in control of anything. We advised the franchisor of opinion.
Well, that's interesting that you have a unique experience in creating jobs. A lot of the people running for office can't really say that too much. Now, of course, Chance Henry has had him on. He's got a business. He can say that. Whether you create 1 job or 350 jobs, I think having your eyes on the business free market system, is key to running for office.
Absolutely.
And so you're running you've been running franchises. You've been a businessman for a long time, sat on some boards. What compelled you to run for state rep in this area?
Well, a couple of friends of mine are in the parish council level, and other friends of mine, acquaintances I've made over 20 years of serving the community with our business. And just talking to people, some people have nudged me a little bit. I guess they know my personality and what I stand for. And then, I've got stores in 2 states. We have 4 locations in Mississippi. And when the, scamdemic hit, I would drive across to Mississippi to go see my locations. And it was a tale of 2 states. And it bugged me that we were closed for business in Louisiana while Mississippi was open for business. And then I have to juggle 2 sets of team member rules in 2 different states. So the bug for me was the Constitution being thrown in the corner and just trampled. And then, recently it's been a lot of this, if you want to put on makeup and follow my daughter into the bathroom as a grown man, it's supposed to be okay. And I don't accept that. So the seat was open. The current representative in the seat is running for the Senate. So with an open seat, my family and I spoke, and they were like, why not? You always gripe that somebody who understands business won't do it. So here I am.
So basically, you're looking at the shutdowns as a businessman. You're looking at the economy as a businessman. So when you're just running for office, you're running it as a businessman and not wanting to have a political career. Is that correct?
Well, I have zero aspirations. I mean, I intend to win this election. None of us go into this not hoping or expecting to win, but I say it with humility. If I don't win and I'm not the chosen individual to represent us, I'll go fishing on October the 15th. I think I'm going to win. And then if I do win and serve the state for 4 years, I want to serve in a capacity where there is no expectation. If it's 4 years and that's all that I'm asked to do, then I can live with that too. So yeah, I'm just concerned about our state's not open for business. And I'd like to get us open for business through the prism of how business runs. It's not all just give me more money, more money, more money, more money. There's a budget you have to balance.
So you're a free market, common sense guy. How would you have handled that last pandemic? When the governor's shutting things down. As a legislator, a representative, a sole representative, you can't open up Louisiana. You couldn't, do things to override the governor. What actions would you have taken with other representatives possibly in that scenario?
Well, I think for me, what I was looking for was, when you get elected, you raise your right hand and you swear an oath to defend the United States Constitution. And for me, regardless of our governor's powers in the state, I think what bothered me was we all took an oath and then we all sat back while churches were arbitrarily closed, but Walmart was allowed to stay open, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I think what really fueled me, honestly, to think about doing this was when Jeff Landry came down here and stood in front of the Firehouse Barbecue in Watson, Louisiana. And we had a number of our representatives out there as well that were, why are we shutting this lady down? Because she doesn't want to follow arbitrary mandates, which aren't law. So our local law enforcement and local agencies didn't have a problem with it. But then the governor sent in state agencies. And for me, if I would have been an elected official, I would have been standing right next to her in front of her store saying, what's the deal?
What business was that again?
Firehouse Barbecue up in Watson. She really, really stood up as a patriot against this tyranny.
I think I do remember her on that. And look, they shut down, Pastor Spell's church, and the governor kept sending in.
Well, he was labeled a lunatic. That man's a hero. I mean, he stood for Christ.
Yeah,
did not waver.
Yeah, I mean, look, for many people, their faith, their church, their pastor is the only thing that keeps them going. And when you shut that down, you shut down the hope of a lot of people. So what do you think are some of the major problems facing Louisiana that you want to do something about?
Well, yeah, previous gentleman talked about a few of them, so I can copy off him, but it's the common theme. I mean, our like I said, our state's not open for business. It starts, as he said, with the jobs and economics in general. I mean, the you grow the pie, the pieces of the pie get bigger. I think our taxes are just too much. I mean, we've watched Texas doesn't have a state sales tax. Florida doesn't have a state sales tax. Arkansas is starting to stage theirs down. I'd love to see us eliminate that in some process and be part of the generation that actually tackles that. I know it's not easy, but I'm sure when Texas or Florida or somebody else said, hey, we want to eliminate this, they were told, oh, you can't do that. Well, I was told by 5 banks that I would never be successful until I went to the 6th bank, and they finally engaged me into a loan to start my company in 2001. So I think taxes are ridiculous, and we can chip away at that in a number of things. There's so many fees and regulatory fees that are a tax. Insurance is ridiculous. I mean, I've got trucks on the road in my business. I've got rental properties, commercial properties that just the taxes keep going up through the roof. Crime is I mean, like he said, the gentleman before, he said, we can't legislate, but we expect the executive branch to execute, but we can certainly legislate to make things easier for our law enforcement officers in some capacity. And then education in general. I think for me, like I said, it's going to Mississippi during COVID and recognizing that there were two completely different sets of rules, and one state was bleeding and one was doing great. And then even our Smoothie King home office, I mean, the franchise was bought by a South Korean franchisee in 2013, and Jindal administration convinced him to stay here with some great incentives. Well, when those ran out 5 years later, there was no longer Jindal as the governor, and he moved to Texas. And some of his claims in meetings to us were the same things we just mentioned. The state is not business friendly. So,
and this is from a foreign country, or a guy from a foreign country. From if this guy's from Korea, like you pointed out, and he's saying Louisiana is not friendly and goes to Texas, then and he's in Korea. He's got a real good perspective on where the best place to do business is. So I
bought the franchise. He was a South Korean franchisee. He bought the franchise. The franchise was born and raised in New Orleans, Kenner, Louisiana. It's been a Louisiana-based company, but when he bought it, he moved here. He moved to the States, and living in New Orleans, I think he, realized that the state had a lot to be desired on business and whatnot, industry. So, I mean, he didn't specifically say things, but he hinted around that it was not much incentive to stay here compared to what it would be like to move to a state like Texas. So they're in Dallas now.
No, that's and Louisiana's missing out on that, basically.
I would assume, yes, sir.
As a result there. Well, let's talk about. So you're looking at, you got some of these other ideas of what you can tackle in there, but one question I always have to ask people is, how will you as a legislator be able to work with other Republicans? And I'm saying this for this reason. Okay, everybody is saying that we're going to have a Republican governor, and it's going to be the end all be all, and everything's going to be great, everything's going to get through because we finally have a Republican governor. But this time we had super majorities enough to override the Democrat governor. Now, granted, it adds another step in the process to getting legislation through. But we saw Republicans, not vote in a Republican way. We've seen, Republicans vote against other Republicans and not get key legislation through. So we've got a handful of Democrats. We don't have to give up our values or our ideas or our ideologies to get along with them. But I think that there's ways to bring them to our side by showing them the beauty of some of our good policies, showing them the beauty of conservative values, and that they are also, Democrats have conservative values too. So in long form, how will you as a legislator work with other Republicans to be able to shift and keep that momentum going in the direction to get conservative values, good ideas through?
So, I mean, past couple of months, I've been to the state capitol a number of times, and as a citizen that's running a business and growing a business, I admit that I didn't pay a ton of attention to the internal politics. Just because somebody puts an R behind their name doesn't mean they're a conservative, and I think that's the problem. In the Capitol, it's not Republicans versus Democrats; it's conservatives with true conservative values versus rhinos, Democrats, governor, etc. One thing that I've been doing is there's 25 to 30 House representatives that are running unopposed. I've been reaching out to those representatives individually to just introduce myself. Being on the franchise council for Smoothie King's nowhere near compared to being a state rep, but it's got some of the same tendencies. Being in Louisiana, when the brand was based in Louisiana, we loved when they bought the Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. I'm from Louisiana. That would help me. Whereas some of the franchisees on the East Coast were like, well, how does that help me? So when we would go in as 7 franchisees, we're all pulling for what we want in our area. But at some point, you had to have a common theme of what you wanted for the state. So for me, it's just discerning what's the real important things that we can tackle. I think most of the Republicans in the House that I'm speaking to, and then some Democrats, quite frankly, again, as the previous gentleman said, have common goals. I mean, I go into some Democrat districts. I'm in a very high Republican district, but I squeeze into some of the Democrat areas and actually knock on doors and ask. And they care about crime. They care about high taxes. They care about the insurance rates. It's not that different. So as he said, when you tackle the fringes, the 5% on extremists on both sides of left and right, leave that out, and the rest of the 80%, 90% probably agree on some of these core issues.
I love it.
It's a matter of making an effort to. The last thing is, I'm a freshman. If I'm elected, I'm not going to have a lot of power. My goal is to make relationships, learn the process, and be prepared for year 2, 3, and 4. I'm not going to not try to do something, but like I'd love to do a constitutional carry bill. But I'm sure the gentleman up in District 1, I think his name is McCormick, has been introducing it over and over and over and over. I mean, I'm not going to jump line in front of that gentleman. He's going to get that bill out and hopefully pass it. So,
but you would be a part of helping something like that move forward. So what I'm hearing, and I got my next guest coming on here in just a couple seconds. I'm gonna bring on that someone that if you get elected, you will definitely be working with it. You know, he's gonna be on the Senate side. Is Ray Garofalo, but I'm gonna have him on a second. But you know, so you're telling me that your first year as a freshman legislator, you know, you don't want to. I don't say not rock the boat, but you want to learn from the more experienced legislators and be an assistant to them to helping get good conservative legislation through and learn the process before you try to really take off and run with things.
I will try my best to do anything I can and be assertive and aggressive. However, let's be real. I'm going in as a freshman. If I'm over assertive and overconfident, then that backfires on the ability to deliver for our district. So I'm going in with a lot of humility and a lot of initiative, and we'll mix the two together and see what can happen to be a cooperative, representative with other conservatives.
All right, Roger, your district and your website so people can find out more about you.
All right, it's rogerwilder.com, www, my name, ROGERWILDER.com. My district is District 71. It's Denham Springs, Louisiana, and Walker, and we would appreciate your vote to continue turning the state in the right direction towards the conservative values that would make us a successful economic boom.
All right, Roger. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good day, man.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Representative, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Bill. I'm doing well. Just got to head out in a few minutes, as you already know. I appreciate you putting us back on at 9:30.
No, that's not a problem at all. There, I had some people move around on me like that. We get a little bit of a background on your side.
You have what? I'm sorry.
We're getting a little bit of a background on the sound from your side.
I can reboot. I mean, I don't know what else to do.
Oh no,
check.
Let you do most of the talk. Representative Garofalo, you've seen what it's like to be in the legislature and the side. You're down moving to the side, correct?
Well, we sure hope so. We're working hard at it.
So talk to me about you've been in your district. You've done a lot of accomplishments as a representative. What do you think that you can do as a Senate on the Senate side? Are you bringing the game with you? Are you ready for the? I know you're step up, but I want to hear think you can do more as a senator.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you've seen, the issues, Bill. I don't have to get into them with you. I mean, if you want to talk about anything specific, we'll definitely do that. But from my perspective, as a 12-year third-term legislator, I see, and I'm a strong advocate for term limits, so don't take this the wrong way. But I see the negative side of term limits as well. So if you get somebody like myself who's working really hard on several initiatives to try to move the state forward, and all of a sudden they're booted out because of it's their 12th year, then some of those initiatives may get lost. So for me, it's all about having the ability to jump on into the other chamber and try to carry on some of the same initiatives that we've been working on with education, crime, insurance rates, all the top issues that everybody, all of your watchers are going to know about already.
I'm a term limit guy myself because I think the founding fathers originally created the public offices for the concept of they felt that people were involved in voting out elected officials. But term limits are kind of because we have a lot of people in the system can't get them out. Louisiana, I think, has a great giving legislative terms in the House and in the Senate side. You've done a lot of good on the House side. And so in the system we have in Louisiana, I think it's a great opportunity for you to be able to see involved and doing good things as a senator on that side. Is there anything as a representative that you're talking about to the Senate side?
Well, the first thing we're going to bring, I've told several people in my district already. I'm sure you're aware of the problems that we have in our libraries with the pornographic material, the inappropriate material for children who are under 18 years old. That's the first bill I'm going to bring because it's number one on the minds of the people in this district. Other than that, the insurance crisis is crushing us right now. So we carried several bills last year that didn't get through for various reasons, primarily politics. For me personally, I believe I'm starting with a clean slate in the Senate because you know of the issues that I had with Clay Schexnayder and with the leadership in the House and them blocking a lot of the good legislation that I was working on. So personally for me, it's basically going to give me a clean slate to start from and start moving forward with a lot of the issues that I've been working on for years. And some of those issues that, we just started working on a few years ago that due to the political nature, we weren't able to get through. We think we have a pretty good idea of who the leadership in the Senate's going to be. I'm already working with them. And if that occurs, I think I have a good shot of being in that leadership team because of my strong history of, representing my constituents well and moving the state in the direction that I believe the residents in this state want to move in. Now, of course, all that's still up in the air, but if that occurs, that'll give me an opportunity to hit the ground running. I heard your previous guest talking about that. I'll tell you and I've already told you, but from my perspective, I didn't know what I didn't know when I started. As an attorney, I thought that I'd hit the ground running. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know, but I know 12 years worth now. And I think that'll give me a tremendous leg up on a lot of the new senators, even senators that have been there for a term already. Because even though it's a different atmosphere, a different nature in the Senate, it's still the same process and it's still the same issues. So for me, I'm walking in as a 13th year legislator, regardless of which house it is. So I think it'll give me a tremendous opportunity. And you know how much of a research hog I am. So with the research knowledge that I have and the background knowledge that I have, it'll give me a really good, strong ability to hit the ground running and move forward with some of these critical issues.
And you made a really good point about how when you hit the ground running and after 12 years, even after 12 years of a lot of experience, you still ran into roadblocks on a political reason. And actually some of your experience that I witnessed led to some of the questions I've been asking other people running for office when I've said, when I said, look, I said, you might have all the experience, you might have all the great ideas, but when you've got House leadership or you've got other Republicans, up there stopping you, even though right now the cheer is, oh yeah, we're gonna have a Republican governor, we're gonna have a Republican supermajority, it's all gonna be great, happy days are here again. I say, whoa. You're still gonna have to learn to work with the Republicans who disagree with you, because we saw in the last session that there are Republicans who don't even show up to vote at a critical time to override, even override vetoes. So it's still going to take, even though we can say we have a majority and a governor or a Republican governor, it's still going to take people with enough smarts to not only work in the system, but to be able to work with other people, other Democrats, to be able to move legislation forward. It's still going to be a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of people really realize that.
Absolutely. No. And I mean, I would say myself more than most, I can see the problems with having a system set up the way that we have it set up. I don't have an absolute solution. I think there are some rules that we can put in place, and I've already suggested those rules to other members of the Freedom Caucus and the Conservative Caucus, because I think they really have to work on that. But from my perspective, I know, and I hope you know, that I've always worked across the aisle. I've always reached across. The Republicans don't have, we don't know all of the good ideas. I mean, we're all individuals who are elected by our districts, and you're going to get ideas from the entire spectrum. And I mean, I've worked with the unions, I've worked with everyone else to try to come up with solutions to problems that we have. And it doesn't matter to me if you're a Republican or a Democrat or libertarian, you still might have a good idea. So I always try to reach across the aisle, so to speak. I mean, I know that's a cliche, but it's the truth. We try to work with our colleagues. And I believe, I mean, you'd have to ask them, but I believe I have good relationships with most of my colleagues. There are a few that I understand for political reasons or personal reasons. They don't care for my personality, whatever the case may be. But I think those are few and far between. And I will always try to work with whoever I can. You try to bring the individuals that the stakeholders to the table. And if you get the correct stakeholders at the table, usually you can come up with some solutions. And they may not be, long term, the perfect solution, but at least you can start chipping away at problems. And that's what I bring to the table, because I have, as an attorney, I've been an attorney for 30 years. I don't know if I told you, I was a reserve deputy for several years.
I didn't know that.
Even on criminal issues, I bring an experience base to the table that a lot of other legislators don't. So I can see, because I just made 65. So, that age brings wisdom. And if you have taken the time to start your businesses and raise your families like I have, then that wisdom comes in, and that's what we bring to Baton Rouge with us. And certainly that's what I bring to Baton Rouge with me. So, and all of that has shown me over the years that we have to do everything we can to work with our colleagues and work together to try to find these solutions. And I will always do that. Again, we don't have a lock on good ideas, but certainly I think that the citizens in Louisiana are demanding a traditional frame of mind, more of a constitutional area than just, some of the changes that we see going on in DC and around the country right now are not where the residents of Louisiana want to go. And, we're more traditional, family focused, and which is something I believe strongly in. And those are the values that I'm fighting for.
Right. I like.
I'll bloviate a little bit, but I hope I answered your question. I know I'll bloviate a little bit, but I tend to get very passionate when it comes to the ideas that this country was founded on, and preserving and fighting for those principles.
I mute your mic only when I'm talking, because I'm getting the rebound on that. But I unmute you as soon as you start talking. So I'm about to say this real quick: is what I really respect about you, Representative, is that you talked about reaching across the aisle. And look, I'm Republican. I have conservative values. Ideologically, I'm on the right. But what I find important that we've lost today in our nation and in our state is that ability to be able to listen to the other side. And I think it can be done in a way that you don't have to give up your personal beliefs or your passions, which I think you've been a great example of. You've got some bills that are ideologically on the right, very conservative in nature, but I've seen what you're telling me. I've actually seen you talking to Democrats in the aisles, talking to Democrats in the hallways in such a way that you're really trying to include them on the decision-making process. And even though we as Republicans and conservative-minded people want to brag, we're going to have a Republican governor, supermajority, we're going to get it this time. We find that there's still Republicans who don't show up to vote, and Republicans who are ideologically different from other Republicans. So I think it is important to be able to still have that ability to listen and reach across the aisle to be able to get good ideas through, which I've witnessed with you to do. Even though narratively speaking, people can say, "Oh, he's that guy that's far on the right." I've liked how you've worked across the aisle. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, thank you. You work hard to develop that kind of a reputation, Bill, and it's been trying. I've already explained to you that when I went through everything that I went through, it took a personal toll on me and my family. It is what it is, but it's all behind me now. And what it's done for me is it's given me much more of a I'm not going to worry about it attitude, not a I'm not going to listen to you attitude. But I'm not going to worry about what people are going to say about me, because what they write about me on social media and what they say about me in blogs, it's not true. It's flat out not true. And so anybody who knows me, anybody who's worked with me knows that that's the case. And I worked really hard my whole life to develop my reputation, my principles, and in my relationships that I have, and I'm not going to do anything myself to jeopardize that. My reputation is very important to me. So when people lie about who I am and what I stand for, it's just totally not true. But I agree with you 100%. I mean, one of the things that we really need to work on is we need to vet, and I'm talking to the electorate now, and I understand most of the electorate, they have their jobs and they're just trying to provide a meaningful quality of life. And that goes across the board, whether you're Republican, Democrat. Most people just want to have a good quality of life for their families. They want to be able to provide and give their families what they need, a good education, the tools that they need to succeed in life. So as you're going through your day, building your business and raising your family, a lot of times you don't pay close attention to the people that you're electing. But we have to do a better job at that. And those of us who have the ability to inform others have to do a better job at telling them, please look at your candidates closely. Go to their websites, look and see what they stand for. Look at their background. Look what they've done in their lives. Even if they've never been in public office before, they have a background. And if they're not sharing that with you, ask them why. If they would have voted against, or they would have voted to bust the state spending cap, ask them why they would do that. What's their principles? That's not a question of, why did you do it? It's more of a, what would you do and why would you do it? Because you need to know that before you so you can make an informed decision and before you vote. So to me, those are the kinds of questions and the things that we need to do, because we need to make sure that the guys and gals that we're sending to Baton Rouge have the same principles that we have. And hopefully we won't have the same problem that we saw in this last session, and with me, where we have, this last term, where we have leadership that's split and is not doing everything that I believe the electorate in the state of Louisiana wants us to do.
So what was that last thing you said?
I said, I hope it answers your question. Again, I know it's
absolutely perfectly. So look, I know you only have a few more minutes, but I have a couple more things I want to ask you on this. One of which, your district is kind of, it's almost like a cone, I'll say, and you've been kind of representing that small area of the cone. And as a senator, of course, it's going to be a much bigger area, but the district's kind of shaped uniquely. How are you going to take, what you've done in your area as a representative and be able to reach all those new people as a senator? And I know you said the one thing is the pornography in the libraries, which, by the way, my comment on that real quick is we already regulate the age limit of children being able to buy alcohol, get driver's licenses, be able to go into certain clubs, drink alcohol. There's no reason why we should not limit what they can get. If they can't buy pornography in a grocery store or in a bookstore, they shouldn't be able to check it out for free under that same age limit. And I respect that you are just trying to equal that age limit across the board on all things. So I know that's your one priority. So taking your district to represent more people, how are you going to make those people feel like they're well represented? And then the other two ideas that you've got when you become senator.
Look, I really dislike campaigning. I think you and I have had that discussion before. It's not a natural thing for me to try to go sell people on me. But what campaigning does, and it's a good part of campaigning, is you have to be in all areas of your district. You have to be knocking on the doors. You have to be with the clubs. You have to be with the organizations to explain to them what you're bringing to the table. Well, that's a two-way street. For me, when I'm out knocking doors, when I'm, presenting to the Kiwanis Club or whatever the case may be, I'm learning from the constituents. I'm meeting the people that are on the ground, the boots on the ground, who are interacting with the lion's share of the constituency. So I've already started doing what you're talking about. This is for the last 6 months now. I mean, maybe 8 months. I've been out in the community working with those people that are going to be able to give me input in perpetuity, so that I am hearing the problems that we have to solve and am able to hopefully address them. But, even more importantly, I would say that this district is very similar to the district that I represent now. You and I have had the discussions already about how the district lays out and where my district is, my existing district versus the Senate district. And I think you kind of, it's a cone shape, kind of. It's a good way to put it. But it's a lot of the toe that is the boot of Louisiana. And I love the district. I'm very familiar with the district. You know, you talk about coastal legislators. I don't think there's a legislator that's been more involved coastally than I have, because my district, my existing district, is the one that's disappearing, arguably, into the Gulf of Mexico the most quickly. Well, this district shares a lot of those same properties. Plus, it's bringing in a lot of flood protection properties that that have to be addressed. And I have a homeowners association meeting coming up, and that's one of the topics of conversation, is some of the flood protection measures that are coming up. So it's interesting, but I'm learning a lot about that. And because of my previous experience with that, I kind of have a step up when I can walk into the room and talk about the projects that we've worked on already and the projects that are on the books. It gives me the opportunity to educate the constituency as to maybe what to expect, and hopefully some of the protections that we might see. So the issues are very similar to the district that I represent now. And the good thing for me is I'm seeing that in Slidell and Pearl River, the community spirit is so strong. It's a lot of the community spirit that I saw growing up, and it really makes me feel at home, and it energizes me, Bill, because I'm looking forward to representing that area. And many of the people there I've known for years and have relationships with. So I feel like I'm at home here. I have to be honest with you. And I told you the story already. My opponent's trying to make it an issue, but you know, we chose to locate to Slidell before we knew we were running for the Senate seat. In fact, I was running for lieutenant governor before Billy decided that he was going to run back for lieutenant governor. I said, well, Billy's my friend, so I'm not going to, and I think he's doing a great job, so I'm not going to run against Billy. So I had to make a decision. Do I want to run for the Senate seat, or, you know, do I just want to go back to work and enjoy more time with my family, which I certainly can afford to do. But seeing the problems, having the 12 years of experience that I have, I think seeing the big picture and having what I believe to be are a lot of solutions to those problems if we have the right structure and leadership in place. I can't step back. So that's why we decided to move, but why we decided to run. But we had made an informed decision to locate here, to retire here in Slidell before that. So yeah, it was not a political decision for us to move to Slidell. It was purely a lifestyle decision that we're very, very happy with, and we're staying here. So that's, you know, we love it here, and we have no intentions of leaving.
And what it sounds like to me is that not only, this will be my last question for you. What it sounds like to me is that you not only do you have a record of success that you can run on, you also have a record of projects that you already started as a representative that you can now finish as a state senator, and that impact will be even greater as a senator, because you're going to take those projects that you've been working on as a representative, carry them into the Senate and say, here are projects that are already started, they're already underway. All that we need to do is put a bow tie on them or a ribbon on them and finish them up, and you can do that as a senator. So the answer to that question, and how can people find you and get more information about you, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, that's easy. Let me do the website first, so because it's real easy. It's simply voteray.com, www.voteray.com. And I have a lot of biographical background, and a lot of my accomplishments are listed on there. And I would encourage all of your listeners to go and do the research on me. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them. And then look at the other candidates' website, and you judge who you believe is the most qualified for the seat. Now, that's a little bit of my stump speech if you couldn't figure that out. And what was the other question about?
Basically the unfinished projects.
Sure. Yeah.
Working on
some projects, but mainly proposals, mainly policy issues. So, you know, I mean, I wouldn't exactly term them projects. They are policy issues, you know, ways that we can improve the education system in Louisiana, provide better deterrence against crime, make our businesses and the patrons of those businesses feel safer, so that they don't have to worry when they're going shopping and, you know, is my car going to get broken into, or, you know, is somebody going to pull me over and stick a gun in my face and try to take my vehicle away from me. I mean, those are the types of quality of life issues that we have to address. And when you talk about education, education is the foundation of everything. You know this.
Right.
You and I've had this discussion already. If we have a good education system, it would do a lot to solve the crime issue, because a lot of our criminals, they say it. The reason why they're criminals is because they don't have any other opportunities to do anything.
Right.
I would argue with that, but from their perspective, that's the way they see it. But if you give someone a good education and you give them the tools that they need to succeed, and studies and statistics show this, there's no question about it, that in most cases, they will take advantage of that and not turn to a life of crime. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing, but I see how they're symbiotic and I see how they work together. And those are the issues that I've been working on and will continue to work on, not to mention the budget issues, the insurance crisis. I mean, we don't have enough time to even get into what I did this past session with the insurance crisis. But those are the types of issues. You know me, but your watchers and listeners may not. I'm very deep on the issues. I do a lot of research. I'm a very analytical, logical thinker. So when somebody brings an issue to me, I start researching. I try to look at the big picture. I try to be a statesman. I'm never looking to the next election. I'm always looking to the next generation. I bring all of those principles with me, and I try to find the root cause of what's going on and find good solutions, long-term solutions to those problems. And that's just what I stand for, Bill. And I mean, I don't know any other way to do it. As an attorney, as a guy who represented many clients, and as a guy who's building buildings and trying to take care of my tenants, you have to have long-term solutions. And if we have legislators who aren't thinking that way, it's a disservice to the community. And quite frankly, I think, and not that I'm not always frank, but I think that that's one of the problems that we see in this country right now, is that we have too many of our elected officials, those people who are representing us, that are thinking about the next election instead of thinking about the next generation. And that's one of the root causes of the problems that we're seeing right now.
And one thing to rebound, what was the last thing you said?
I said a little deep, I know. But again, it's all part of thinking about the next generation.
Well, it's only, you say a little deep, it's only a reflection of how much thought you put into it. And one thing that I want to point out, using your example of what you've been through, and sorry to keep going a little bit more, but I think this is really important, is that when you talk about education and you talk about how much you research and you talk about how deep you go on things, I think it's important to note that you are doing something I think that we as a country need to do. And when it comes to education, focus on raw education and not blending narratives or politics, not blending in ideologies into the system, and just keeping education raw education on the subject matters only, and not using other influences like narratives. And I'm glad that you took you took a lot of heat for doing that. But I want to point out that like you said, you go in deep on details and you want to do quality. And I think that's a good reflection of that. I want to thank you very much for that.
Well, I'll give you my talking points on that. We should be teaching our children reading, writing, and arithmetic, and accurate history. Accurate history so they don't repeat the mistakes that we made in the past. But reading, writing, and arithmetic is the basics that they need to succeed in life and provide a good quality of life for their children and their families, not political ideas. And that's exactly what we see happening right now. I know why it's happening. You know why it's happening. But, many people in just the voters, they don't realize, they don't do the deep reasoning. I mean, the progressives are trying to tear us apart. They're trying to split us up based on race, based on gender, based on any way that they can split us up. Because when we're not together as Americans, they see an opportunity to come in and upset what this country was founded on: equal principles, equal opportunity for everybody, so that everybody can succeed. The principles that made us the most successful country in the history of the world. And they don't want us to be successful. They're jealous. And I say we have to fight with every breath that we have to protect the constitutional principles in our constitutional republic. Because if we don't protect it and we lose it, it'll never come back. I don't see any way that it could. So that's some of my talking points, but you hit the nail on the head. You got it exactly right.
I'll make this one last point, and then I'll let you wrap it up, which is the pendulum swings. So if we allow the establishment people on the right or the left to inject or inject policies and narratives and ideologies into our education system. When the pendulum swings the other way, it could go against that side that might want it now. If it goes the other way, they could, reap the anti-benefits, I guess, or the repercussions of allowing it. And what I appreciate is that you're building a firewall and says, no, it can't happen from either side. It's going to stop right here. And I appreciate that. Representative, I'm going to let you wrap it up I know you got another appointment. Any final words before we do?
Look, Bill, I appreciate the opportunity. And I apologize for taking so long to cutting out some time to speak to you. And actually, this was actually pretty easy. I really thought we'd have to get together. So I'm getting kind of used to the Zoom culture. It's something that I think we're going to see a lot in our future. But no, look, I'll leave you with is I'm a really, really hard worker. And I think if you look at my voting record in combination with my work record and my list of accomplishments, you will see that there's no comparison to the candidates. I'm by far the best qualified candidate in this race. And I would hope that, again, your listeners and viewers would go to my website, do the research, and make an informed decision, if anybody in my district is watching, before they make a decision, because this is critical. We have to have the workers. We have to have the warriors that are going to fight for those principles that made this country great. I am one of those warriors. We don't have time for the nice guys and the good old boys representing us anymore. We have to have warriors who are going to fight for our principles. And I suggest to you and I pledge to you that I will be one of those warriors. I have been one of those warriors and I will continue to be. Thank you for the opportunity.
Representative, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon out there on the campaign trail.
Excellent. Thanks, Bill. We'll see you soon.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.